We're going to spend a couple of days talking about the Earth, planet we live on. Been good to us. And we're going to start off by writing some numbers down. Like I said, we're going to do this for every planet. We're going to write down these numbers. And I said earlier there were 9. There's actually 11. Okay, and I'll go through them real quickly here. Most of these are going to be quite simple. Semi-major axis, the distance between the sun and the Earth, of course, is on average 1 AU. A lot of these numbers are going to be 1 for the Earth because Earth is going to be our reference point, okay, for these numbers. The orbital period, of course, is 1 year. The mass of the Earth is 1 Earth mass, by definition. The radius of the Earth is 1 Earth radius, by definition. Lots of ones, like I said. The next one is also happens to be 1. The number of moons. We have 1. The rotational period is 1 day. Okay. Well, one more 1 coming up, but these other numbers here are going to be a little bit different. I actually need to look this up real quick. Bear with me. 5,500. I want to get it right. I knew it was 5,000 something. 5,500 kilograms per meter cubed. Remember, this is the density. This is how packed in stuff is. The larger this number is, the more packed together the stuff is, and the heavier and a certain size of it feels. Remember, if we had a box this big on the side, this wide, this deep, this high, and filled it with an average amount of Earth, that would have a mass of about 5,500 kilograms. Okay, which is about 12,000 pounds, which is about 6 tons. So 6 tons of Earth in that box, just that big. This theta is the Greek letter which is going to represent our axial tilt, or obliquity, the amount by which the planet is tilted. For the Earth, this is 23.5 degrees. The magnetic field of the Earth is 1 Earth magnetic field by definition. And the last number is the one that we mentioned when we talked about the ellipses, the eccentricity of the orbit, 0.0167 for Earth, which tells you that it's about 1% out of round. Okay, circle being perfectly round, the Earth's orbit is about 1%. The long axis is about 1.67% longer than the short axis. Not very much. Okay. So those are our numbers. Okay. And we're not going to do with Earth what we're going to do with the other planets, which is pick one of those numbers and talk about it at length for each of the other planets. We're going to spend more time on the Earth to get some definitions down and to sort of do our comparative planetology, starting with the planet we know the best. So let's do a cross section of the Earth here. Pick a different color and do a nice cross section of the Earth. In the center of the Earth, you have what's known as the inner core. IC. Okay. The inner core has a radius of about, is it 1,500? Yes, about 1,300. 1,300 kilometers for the inner core. Okay, so it's about 2,600 kilometers across, which is about 1,500 miles across. Okay, outside of that, believe it or not, we got the inner core. Yes, it's true. We have the outer core. And the outer core goes out to about, 3,500 kilometers. So from 0 kilometers to 1,300 is the inner core, then from 1,300 out to about 3,500 kilometers is the outer core. Again, this is the radius. Okay, it's R for these. It's not the diameter, it's the radius. Above that, we have something called it's a larger part. Oh, by the way, the inner core is made of, is rocky. Okay, it's hard, it's solid. The outer core is actually liquid. Okay, it's fluid. How we know that we'll talk about later. So inner core in the middle, outer core outside of that, and then outside, and then beyond that we have a large region of the Earth known as the mantle, and that goes out from about, the mantle goes out from 3,500 out to about 55. Is that right? 5,500. 6,400. I was getting my numbers confused. 6,400. Kilometers. Okay. And that's roughly the radius of the Earth. What's above that is a very thin layer known as the crust. Crust is from 5 to 50 kilometers thick. Something like that. That's what we see as we walk around on. Between 5 and 50 kilometers thick. In some places it's virtually non-existent. Other places it might be 100, but on the average it runs between 5 and 50, which is, just so you know, it's about 3 to 30 miles thick. Okay, to put it into a unit that you're more familiar with, the crust out here. Okay. The mantle, as we'll see, is also fluid, but it's very slow flowing. Okay, but it is not solid in the sense of not flowing. It does flow, and that's kind of cool. Above the crust, of course, you have the oceans. You know, sometimes the oceans cover the crust, sometimes they don't, but you have a region of water known, I'm not making this up, as the hydrosphere. And above that, of course, we have the atmosphere. Okay, so the diameter of the Earth, the radius of the Earth is roughly 6,400 kilometers. Okay, so this distance here, center to the edge, is about 6,400 kilometers. 6,400 kilometers is about 4,200 miles. So the radius, so the diameter of the Earth it's approximately something like 8,400. If you look in your book, and it's a little bit different from this, I just did a quick calculation in my head, but it's going to be close to about 8,400 kilometers for the diameter of the Earth. Okay, I'm sorry, 8,400 miles. For comparison, the distance between Los Angeles and New York, straight line, is about 2,500 miles. Okay, so that's about between a fourth and a third of the distance across the Earth. That's about this far on the picture here. LA to New York would be about this long, something like that. Okay. Now, so that's basically the big, rough, really rough picture. And we're going to talk about the interior a little bit, but mostly we're going to spend time talking about the atmosphere, because that is such an important piece of the Earth's system, especially for us who have made a habit for about 150 or 200 years of polluting the atmosphere and creating all kinds of trouble for ourselves and for all of creation. So we're going to spend some time next in video 32 talking about the atmosphere.